Hello and welcome to another episode of Draft Gym TV. As always, you are joined by me, Andy, FPL Teach Mode, and today we are looking at the teams that we think are going to finish from 16th to 13th in the Premier League table, talk about their assets, talk about who we think is going to be a good asset moving forward into the season, who we think could be bargains, who we're going to avoid, and all of this, of course, is based on FanTeam. So this is their season-long game, gearing up to select our squad so we can try and win as much as we can out of that £1 million prize pool. £200,000 to the person that wins it. Somebody's got to win it. Hopefully, it could be you. I mean, obviously, I'd like it to be me as well, but hopefully it could be one of our viewers. That would be absolutely incredible. Now, you're already getting a little bit of a sneak peek as to who we're going to be talking about because I always put the 4 teams that we talk about down below us, and these are the teams that we think are going to be finishing between 16th and 13th. But I will leave it as a bit of a surprise before I show you who it could be. Remember, guys, like and subscribe to the videos. I'm already having, I think our views are starting to go up a little bit more now as we're starting to get close to the beginning of the season, so we're really looking forward to that. Just so you know as well, when we start the season, I will be coming back to my season-long team every week, but not for very long. We'll be focusing on the monsters and trying to win as much money in the weekly monsters as we can as well. Now, before we get going, I just wanted to show you here. Yes, I got it right the right way around. We have a FanTeam Fantasy Football Ultimate Guide 2021-2022. It is incredible. It is everything that we've done to help you prepare for FanTeam this year. Honestly, if you want to do FanTeam seriously, you need to go and have a look at this article. It's on draftgym.com. You only need to type in or literally just scroll down and you'll find it. FanTeam Fantasy Football Ultimate Guide. It is brilliant. If you're going to take this game seriously, you must give it a read. Right, so today, as I said, we're going to be focusing on the teams that I think are going to finish 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th. When I say I think, it's our Draft Gym collective. So we've put all of our predictions into a table, and then we've got an average as to where we think all those teams will finish. So should be a pretty good way of doing it. So first up is Burnley. We think Burnley are going to finish 16th this season. I worry about Burnley quite a lot. They're not investing anything into this squad, and they've done that for quite a while, and it's going to stagnate at some point. Sean Dyche has been a miracle worker with what he's done, to be perfectly honest. A gravelly-voiced miracle worker, it has to be said. And you look at this team and think it needs an injection. It needs an injection of youth, of flair, of something, because it is starting to look a little bit stale now. Nick Pope is still in goal. I think he's somebody that you can rely on. He's not going to be the force he was a few years ago. And for 5.5 million, when you've got someone like Martinez at 5.5 million, is it worth it? I'm not so sure. But you know he's going to get you a certain amount of clean sheets a season. You know he's going to keep them in games, and he is going to get you saves. For me, for 5.5 million, I wouldn't be going near Pope because Martinez is 5.5. If I wanted to buy that premium goalkeeper, I'd be all over Martinez. But Burnley, you know, are going to get you some clean sheets. Tarkowski and me, I think, are both very interesting ones. And actually, the whole back line is, to be perfectly honest. Tarkowski is somebody that continuously has quite a few shots in the box. He genuinely does. He gets up for corners, and he does quite well from corners. He hasn't had a prolific season in terms of converting them all yet. He tends to get one or two. He tends to get one or two a season. But actually, if you fancy starting with him, I don't mind it. I would always pick Tarkowski over me, Ben Mee. But one thing I would say is if you're willing to spend 5 million on a Burnley defender, you're fair play. For me, I think I'd probably be going for one of the wing backs. So Charlie Taylor or Matt Loughton. Loughton's probably my pick of the two because he does. Taylor seems to have these odd injuries every now and again, and Loughton just seems to be the one that will play every week, and he does get forward. It's surprising. If you have a look on some of the websites out there that gives you the stats on players, Loughton's the one that gets forward, and he is the one whipping the balls in, and he plays in quite an advanced position. So if I were to go with any Burnley defensive asset, I think Loughton's the way I would go. In midfield, it's not looking great, is it? I mean, McNeil, 6 million. When you think you can get Ismail Assar for 6 million and he's going to be potentially on penalties, getting forward in what could be an okay attacking team, McNeil isn't doing it for me at all. Cork, I mean, he might not even be in the starting 11 to start with. Westwood is somebody that actually does quite well throughout the season. He picks up assists, he takes their corners, things like that, and I just think with 5.5 million, the upside isn't really there. Brownhill is 4.5 million in FPL, which is why he's so picked. 5 million, I think he's a bit of a dead asset in FanTeam, unfortunately. And then we get up front. Ashley Barnes is going to be in and out of the team. He'll be rotated with Vidra. He'll be rotated with Rodriguez as well, Jay Rodriguez. And then the only other person that I would even think about having in my team is Chris Wood. Chris Wood has had a very, very good Premier League career, really. He's done very well for Burnley. He knows how to play for Burnley. He makes the most of the chances he gets. He always goes on flurries of scoring 3 or 4 goals in 5 games. And he tends to get into people's thinking. People then take the punt on him, and then all of a sudden, Burnley stop scoring goals, or they only score 1 goal in a game. And it's really hard to trust a striker that you think, if he scores 1 goal a game, he's done really well. That's not really what you want to be looking at. He will play every game, and he'll get you the 90 minutes, which we know is really, really important in this game. But I think for 6.5 million, there are some other assets out there that I would like instead of him, just because of their ability to haul, their ability to get a brace, the ability to continuously do that as well. Whereas I don't feel like this team is geared up to get Chris Wood the ball as much as possible and get him to score as many goals as possible. It's more brilliant. If he gets the ball and scores a goal, that's lovely. But it's all about defence and all about not losing games. And I don't think that's really what you want from a striker. If they have 3 or 4 fixtures that look really nice and look like teams that can't defend, then yes, there's not... For 6.5 million, you can still take that little bit of a gamble on him. But I'm definitely not going to be starting my season with him. So with Burnley, the 3 players that I would probably go with if it were me, Chris Wood is somebody that can be on my watch list all season. I'm happy to have a look at him each year. Lowton is somebody as well. I think with 4.5 million, you can do a lot worse. And then Tarkowski. I really genuinely love him, and he's one of these players, like I said, that can get you a goal every now and again, and I think he's due. So, so those 3 would be my picks: Wood, Lowton, and Tarkowski. Now, the team that we think is going to finish 15th is Southampton. What a weird team Southampton are. They seem to have it in them to be able to do really well, and then they also implode at some point every season. They've had 2 9-0 scorelines 2 years in a row. Literally, I mean, you just couldn't make it up, could you? The one against Leicester, where Vardy and Perez got hat-tricks each, and then last year against Man United as well. Yes, it was both times because they got a player sent off, but you don't see teams capitulating like Southampton do. It is really in them to just down tools and give up if it gets tough sometimes. And I do wonder whether they've even taken any strides forward yet this year. Danny Ings is 1 foot out the door. Is he going to go? Is he going to stay? If he does stay, he's their best asset by a long way. But there are some other players we can look at in this team. McCarthy is a good keeper. He's 4.5 million. Are they going to keep many clean sheets? Probably not. I don't think they're that defensively resolute, to be perfectly honest. I prefer Bednarek over Vestergaard, but just because of that 0.5 million saving, to be perfectly honest. I don't think there's much of a difference between them. Vestergaard and Bednarek are the ones that they don't exactly turn very quickly, so that's why they're the ones that get sent off more than anybody else. Kyle Walker-Peters, I think, for 5 million is hard to justify. If he was 4.5, he's somebody that I think you can look at and think, yeah, I could keep him in my team all year because he'll play every game. But for 5 million, I still wouldn't be going near that. I don't think he gets near enough attack and returns to justify 5 million. Again, 4.5, I think you're happy to take the gamble on him, but 5 million's not for me. And then Perodovich is the left back that they've just signed as well. Again, for 5 million for an unknown quantity in a team that we're not sure how they're going to get on this year. Yeah, again, not really for me. Their midfield is quite interesting. Now, I'm not sure they're actually going to play this way next year. I feel like it's going to be more... Teller, I don't think will... I'm not sure about Teller yet because they've also got the other striker whose name eludes me now, Obafemi, who is potentially going to be coming in as well. This is all because we're not sure what's happening with Danny Ings. Now, in that midfield, players that will be playing, James Ward-Prowse will be playing, 100%. We all know what he's like from a free kick. He has got some hauls in him, but it's only 1 or 2 a season. He is somebody that I've had in my FPL teams before, and it's so hard to know when those hauls are coming. When I say hauls, like I said, it's only 2 a season potentially because of those free kicks. He doesn't get into the box. He doesn't take a lot of shots, to be perfectly honest. Yes, he takes the free kicks. Yes, he takes the corners, but actually they don't really utilise him as well as you would hope. If he was in a top 6 team, he'd be lovely to own because you would be expecting more from him. But he's somebody that for 6.5 million, I would like my midfielders for 6.5 million to be getting into the box more and taking more shots, and he doesn't do that at all. So I'm not against people picking him because, yes, on his day he can be very, very good. But in the same respect, I'm not going to be picking him because I don't see the upside. Walcott's going to be in and out, to be perfectly honest. Armstrong is somebody that I've had a bit of a love affair with for the last 3 years. I really like Armstrong as an asset. He does get into the box more than Ward-Prowse. He does know how to finish. He knows how to get assists as well. But again, he's not overly consistent, I wouldn't say. Whereas then when you get up top, you've got Che Adams and Danny Ings. If Danny Ings is staying, he is a great asset. For 8 million, it's tough to pick him because there's some really good assets at around that price in FanTeam this year. When you look at, Iheanacho, Jimenez, Watkins, Antonio, Bamford, like it literally goes on. There's so many. I think Danny Ings for 8 million is a little bit of a risk, but he can do it. He does it year in, year out. It's just whether he's going to be there or not. It's really hard as well picking somebody like him when you consider that the transfer window won't close until 3 weeks into this season. So if you pick Danny Ings and all of a sudden he moves to Man City and he becomes a rotation, he gets all those rotation fees, that's not too good for your team. You want players that are going to play all the time. So I do struggle a little bit with Danny Ings. Che Adams, though, don't mind him. I don't mind him at all. 6.5 million, I think, is quite a good price for somebody that's going to play every game. I say play every game. Last year he did get dropped every now and again, just randomly, but then came back in. When he plays, he does okay. I would prefer somebody like Tony for 0.5 million less, but for 6.5 million, I don't actually mind that. I think he's somebody that if Danny Ings leaves, will he take that next step up? He could do. He's not the force that you want him to be. He's not that imperious figure up front that's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck. But he does get returns. So it's up to you, really. For me, I'm not enamoured by Che Adams to start with him. But if he starts, if it looks like he's got some good fixtures coming up and Danny Ings has been sold as well, why not? Let's see whether he can step up. Let's just watch the first couple of games and see how they're getting on, especially if Danny Ings isn't there. It could be that Danny Ings leaves and this team just falls apart. So it is really going to be interesting to keep an eye on how this team does. So for me, in terms of players that I would probably have in my team, it's tough actually. I'm going to go Che Adams if Danny Ings leaves, see whether he takes that next step up. Armstrong in midfield, I think 6 million is not that bad a price. And then I'm going to go with McCarthy just for the save points because I think they're going to be conceding a lot of shots this year. Right. Now, the team that we think is going to finish in 14th is Newcastle. I tipped them to go down last year. I didn't think they had anything about them. Actually, Steve Bruce, I think with what he has and what he is able to spend, he's doing very, very well. This team actually does have some players in there that you think they could do okay. They genuinely could do okay. They're not going to set the world alight. They're not going to be scoring 3-4 goals in games. But they do have players that are quite effective. Dubravka in goal. Brilliant goalkeeper. Will he be fit for the very start of the season? Worth keeping an eye out because he did get injured in the Euros. So worth keeping an eye out for. But when he starts, absolutely brilliant. Will get the saves. He's a very, very good keeper. I think that back line is looking a bit... Dummett, I'm not sure. It's between him and Shah who will play if they do play three at the back. But Lascelles is their captain. 4.5 million, not that bad a shout, but won't give you, it's not a lot of upside really for 4.5 million. And Fernandez on the other side as well. I think Lascelles gets picked a lot more than Fernandez, but Fernandez does play pretty much every game. Then we get into the interesting bit with these wing backs. Matt Ritchie is somebody that you definitely need to have a look at because he has had pedigree before where he's had very, very good seasons. He's a lot older now, but he is somebody where if you fancy a Newcastle player, Matt Ritchie isn't that bad to have a look at. Murphy on the other side as well will most probably be playing right wing back / right wing. He's not that bad a player. Do you really want him for your team for 5 million? Probably not. Almiron, I wouldn't be going near personally. If there was successful dribble points in this game, then potentially, but I don't think there is. And then Longstaff and Shelvey again. I mean, if you want to go with Voldemort in the middle in Shelvey, then you can go for it. But for 6 million, I'd rather spend my money elsewhere. Where it gets interesting is up top. Saint Maximin and Wilson. Both love a shot. We know that. Both very effective on their day. If you were to pick between the two, I think the extra million for Callum Wilson is definitely worth it. Penalty taker. He scores goals in this team, even though this team struggles to create chances. That is big for me. That means if they all of a sudden go on a good run, he is going to run riot. So Callum Wilson, I think for 7.5 million is lovely. He doesn't get subbed, but obviously he does have a bit of an injury history, unfortunately. but quality player, and that's the kind of player you need to look at. The one that, if they win 1-0, he's going to be the one taking the shots and scoring the goals and scoring the penalties and things. So Callum Wilson's a very good shout. If you also fancied St. Maximin, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just don't think he gets enough returns. He tends to flatter to deceive, doesn't he? Where, oh wow, he looks absolutely brilliant this game. Let's get him in because he's probably due some returns, and then the returns just never come. Yeah, he will get returns. It's just you can never really rely on what it is. Whereas Wilson, I think, is much more reliable. And even if Newcastle look poor, he can get you a penalty in the 85th minute, and you're running away laughing. So I think Callum Wilson is the way I would go. In terms of who I would go with in this team, Callum Wilson 100%. He's a level above everybody else in this team. Matt Ritchie, I think, is going to be my other choice. If it looks like he's going to start, and he's playing left wing back, I do quite like him. And then Dubravka, I think it's quite nice having that solid keeper. If he starts the season because he's past fit, then yes, I do quite like Dubravka as an option. And then finally, the team that we think is going to finish in 13th this year is Wolves. I'm really interested in Wolves this year. Obviously, Nuno's left and they've got a new manager in, and they're making some okay signings, to be fair. They also made some good signings a couple of years ago, last year and the year before that, and they're players that are slowly starting to come into this team. I think their players are actually quite nicely priced for a team that is capable of doing quite well in this league, and for a team that is now getting their talisman back as well in Jimenez. I think they're quite nicely priced. If you have a look at that whole back line, I want a bit of that back line. I think that's quite well priced, personally. I think you've got Sam, which is their new keeper because Patricio's left. 4.5 million for a Wolves starting keeper with this Wolves team that could break into the top 10 if they wanted to. I think it's quite good. Ait-Nouri is somebody that is getting a lot of hype pre-season. He is starting to play left wing, left mid. And if they don't play 4 at the back and they play 5 at the back, he tends to be the one that gets forward in the left position. So far in pre-season, he hasn't actually done anything with those positions. Like, he hasn't got any assists or goals or anything like that. But I think he could be somebody that's worth a bit of a punt. But is he going to get you 90 minutes in a game? I doubt it. He had a game last season where he came in and everybody was quite surprised he was playing, and he scored a goal and got a clean sheet. So he is somebody that you can have a look at, and he's definitely somebody to put on your watch list. Semedo, if you ask any Wolves fan, he's a liability, but in terms of fantasy, he could be quite good. So if you fancy this team to keep clean sheets, him and Ait-Nouri will be getting forward. Semedo is way more nailed than Ait-Nouri is. So for 4.5 million, I'd actually be more tempted to go with Semedo. And then Cody and Bolly. I mean, Cody had a few more shots last year than he normally does, because normally he has 0. But I still think I'd favour the wing-backs over those two in central defence, Bolly and Cody. But they are completely nailed, so it's worth remembering that. In terms of the midfield, Adama Traore is somebody that for 6 million I don't think I'd be going near. He was very in and out of the team last year. He's very effective on his day, but I don't like him for FanTeam, if I'm perfectly honest. If they're going to sub someone, it'll be him. They also use him as a bit of a super sub, which I don't like. Trincao is somebody on my watch list. 6 million, I think. He's somebody that there's a lot of buzz when they signed him, and I think he's a very tricky winger that could do quite well coming into the league. I struggle to invest 6 million in him when he's new and he might not take to the Premier League. So he's on my watch list at least. And then Dendoncker and Neves, I don't think you can really go near because they're attacking. They just don't really attack, do they? And then Silva and Jimenez. Really interesting to see what happens in pre-season. Jimenez is nailed. You know he's going to be playing. How is he going to come back from a head injury? That's always worth looking at. So make sure you look in the first couple of games. And then Silva next to him. If they opt to play 2 up top and play kind of a 5-3-2, Silva could be a cheeky little option. Yes, he's going to be subbed all the time. That's the only problem. If something's going wrong or they need another guy, I think it's going to be him that's going to be subbed instead of Jimenez. Wolves look very, very good after game week 3. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to step back and just have a look at Wolves and see what they're looking like. And if they're looking good and they're looking effective and they look okay with their tricky start, then I'm going to be investing in game week 4. I'm going to be bringing players in like Jimenez. 7 million for Jimenez seems a bargain for what he's capable of. Like, he is capable of scoring 20 goals in the Premier League. He genuinely is. He can win games by himself. He's a great player. And 7 million for him, when you consider some of the other options that are 7.58 million, I think he could be a really, really shrewd investment by any FanTeam managers out there. but just keep an eye on the first 3 games. See how he's come back, see how Wolves are operating, and if it's starting to look quite promising, then Jimenez is a very good shout. Also, I should probably mention as well, Morgan Gibbs-White. I've got a feeling he's going to start the season. If he starts the season well, he could keep that place and he could go into the season, get in after game week 3 as a very, very cheap option. I think he's 4.5 million as well, so definitely keep an eye out for him. Right, thank you very much. Those are our teams from 16th to 13th. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to ask. And we'll see you on the next stream where we will do 12th to 9th. So 12th, 11th, 10th, 9th, yeah, that's right. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we hope you enjoy the video. From all of us at Draft Gym, oi oi.